Greetings, my dear beloved children. So as to finish my story about the Archangel Michael, I would like to tell you about his cooperation with Ashtar Sharon. This unique alliance has already brought results in purifying Earth and human collective conscience from the dark forces' influence. How does their interaction occur? Since the Galaxy Light Federation members are not only representatives of highly developed civilizations but disembodied creatures who find themselves at very high levels of existence too. The program for the support of Earth and humanity transition to the fifth dimension was worked out the way that peculiarities of all the members of the GLF are taken into consideration. Each of them has their own clearly stated tasks and responsibilities. One of the most prominent roles is played by the Archangel Michael, who has membership in the Galaxy Light Federation. So, what is his contribution to Earth transition? As it has already been mentioned in my previous messages, it is, first of all, in protection of people from the dark forces, both from demons and their servants, astral beings of all the levels. But sometimes he has to act as a defender of representatives of other extraterrestrial civilizations too, since there is severe struggle for your planet in progress both at the subtle level and at the physical one. While the main fleet of the Greys has already left your planet, the field employees for the programs initiated by them are still on Earth and, as you can see, successfully carry on with their work. Therefore, for their actions neutralization, the support of disembodied members of the GLF is really essential, as they can make influence on the creatures embodied as humans. This is exactly the subtle material work that the Archangel Michael and his angel troops are assigned with, and this is what it actually is. By means of multi-stage energy influence on the executors of these programs designed by the dark forces, the vibrations of these creatures embodied as humans are getting higher, and it follows by their conscience changes and results in many of them taking the side of light. Having cutting-edge technologies at their disposal, they will later be able to share them with the inhabitants of the new Earth, and to prevent the representatives of the dark forces that are still exercising control of their conscience and life from making them any harm. Their energy space is carefully protected by the Archangel Michael and his assistants. At the subtle level, there is in progress a vigorous fight for every revived person, especially if one possesses the knowledge that can benefit all the humanity. Therefore, the responsibilities between Ashtar Sharon and the Archangel Michael are generally divided as follows. Ashtar with his fleet controls the airspace, preventing the Greys' spaceships from approaching your planet, while the Archangel Michael works in terms of energy, dissolving low vibration energies that the Greys are trying to keep their inferiors on Earth and so as to maintain their power over them. Right now the situation on Earth is unique indeed, as the battle between light and dark at all the levels is participated by a huge variety of creatures, both embodied and disembodied. And you, my dear, take an active part in this grandiose divine project transition of the planet and her inhabitants to a new energy space. Each meditation of yours, each seance, each impulse of the energy of love and light cannot be overestimated and renders an invaluable contribution to the work of light forces that have chosen support of Earthlings in transition to the fifth dimension as their mission. Today I would like to start telling you about the way the interaction between archangels happens in order to make their support to humanity more efficient. As it was mentioned in my recent message, each archangel has chosen service to people and each has his own specialization. And as you already know, everything is interconnected in human life, interweaved and interdependent. Everything always occurs according to the eternal and unshakable laws of the universe, no matter whether one knows about them or not. Thus, spiritual component of your life makes direct impact on your physical state and all the events taking place around you. Every minute you make this or that choice, turning either to the direction of light or that of dark. Thereby, one creates paradise in one's soul, while another one hell. And this is your own choice, though few people think about it, more often complaining of circumstances and blaming their failures on others. But now, when enormous amount of people are getting revived, archangels' help to them cannot be overestimated. It is them who help you maintain your vibrations, preventing from falling back to the third dimensionality and sending you their high vibration energies through your safeguard angels. And during this active phase of transition of Earth to the fifth dimension, their service to humanity has advanced to a new level and gained new shades and nuances. For transition of an entire planet with its inhabitants to a new energy space is a unique experience not only for you, My dear, this is a history-making event of the universe scale indeed for all the inhabitants of the higher worlds. They also have to change, adapting their service to people to the new living conditions of the latter so as to help people advance to the level of spiritual development that will enable them to make transition. This is a sophisticated and minute work since reptiloid programs have become rather densely compressed in the conscience and subconscience of the overwhelming majority of your planet population. So now at the subtle level, archangels are carrying out continuous work on dissolving reptiloid programs in human collective conscience. And it has already worked. More and more people are reviving and start to understand the absurdity of the current situation on Earth, its artificiality and inhumanity. They begin to realize that their conscience is being manipulated, and they are being deprived of the freedom of will and freedom of choice, which is an integral part of each divine creature. The situation around coronavirus artificially created by reptiloids has eventually backfired on them themselves because it brought to light the present alignment of forces on the planet. Pure human souls are having their divine essence revived and their eyes open to the ones at the helm who have been controlling the planet for so many centuries. While in case of reptiloids of all castes and low vibration creatures embodied as humans, just on the contrary, all the worst features are getting aggravated, fear and mindless obedience to high and mighty. At present on Earth there is vibration stratification of all her inhabitants in progress, and at the same time natural selection of those who will be able to move to another dimension with Earth and who will not. This is exactly the reason why transition itself was extended in time, to give every inhabitant of Earth a chance to make up their mind. Well, now those who have chosen transition enjoy great support from archangels that work with every human soul, helping it to keep afloat these days so hard for it. Well, let us go on talking about cooperation in terms of the fellowship of archangels for support of humanity. I would like you at this stage of Earth transition to the fifth dimension when her vibrations, as well as yours, are swiftly increasing to make the most of the assistance you are getting from heavens. And for this not only should you know who exactly provides it to you, but also make a clear intention each time to accept this assistance, which will increase its efficiency manifold. While during the meditations on purifying of Earth and human collective conscience you ground high vibration energies, letting them pass through you. In this case accepting the help of archangels, you accumulate this energy in yourself, making your own vibrations higher. There is being carried out individual point-wise work with each of you that your safeguard angels and archangels are involved in. Each of them has their own clearly stated duty. Thus, archangels are responsible for every person's vibrations being tuned into those of Earth, since they can scan all your energy swings from their level. Angels are some kind of adapters of high vibration energies to the level of 1 vibrations at the present stage of development. And the last to join this work are safeguard angels, who being in the energy space of a person can register all the shades of 1 current state and, consequently, adjust the flow of high vibration energies the way to prevent overdosing. This is exactly the reason why I called the process of energy and feed to each of you multistage. And as you see, my dear, this process is joined in by many assistants of yours from the subtle level. Yet, let us come back to the issue of archangels' interaction between each other. Working on one and the same person, each of them focuses on some particular peculiarity of the person so as to make them a single energy spectrum of this person. And because of the fact that you are still in the third dimension world where it is very hard for you to keep your vibration stable, this spectrum is constantly changing, and each of the archangels, like an orchestra conductor, tries to adjust the instrument of your soul that is playing out of tune at the moment. Well, let us have a case study, and let us assume that one has switched over to service and communicates knowledge to people. For example, they have created their own site, a video channel, or their spiritual school. At the beginning of this road their vibrations were high and stable, but in the course of time, getting plunged into the whirlpool of life and interacting with people of different vibrations, they themselves start floating in terms of energy, having failed to cope with their ambitions, offenses, arrogance or guilt, and so as to help them out of the state they are plumped in terms of energy by their heavenly patrons. Sometimes shock therapy is being applied to them as life situations aimed at showing them their weak points and blunders. If so, the main role then is played by their safeguard angels capable of creating such situations. If crooks in their lot turn out to be too painful and their vibrations begin to decrease sharply, archangels send them the flows of the energies necessary for the person in order to recover, thereby improving the situation and preventing them from turning off the chosen path. Same as you turn the tuning knob of a radio so as to catch the frequency you need, So your heavenly assistants find the energy wave for you that during the storm period of your life will be able to carry you to a safe quiet coast where you could recover your breath and energy purity. Today we will continue talking about assistance to people during transition for the side of archangels, and we'll talk about the role of each of them in your life. We will start with the Archangel Metatron, who participates most actively in the process of Earth ascension. It can be said he is the messenger of ascension and the main guide of humanity to a new energy space. Why it was the Archangel Metatron who assumed a role like this? First of all, because he is one of the most powerful archangels in terms of energy, and just like the Archangel Michael has chosen the mission of protection of people from the dark forces during Earth transition to a new dimension. He screens all the energy events taking place on your planet in the most careful manner, as well as alignment of forces between pure human souls and all the other creatures embodied as humans. Why is it so important? Mostly because of the fact that the overall energy profile of Earth is made up of the energy totality of each inhabitant of hers. Unfortunately, due to the centuries-old efforts of reptiloids, not only their kinsmen live in accordance with them now, but many human souls too, whose conscience is almost connected to reptiloid collective conscience. But while for the former all caste reptiloids it is impossible to get disconnected from these programs because of their curtailed subtle material structure that does not let them advance to a higher level of spiritual development, people living according to these programs can still be rescued. This is what the entire army of the light forces is busy with now, who dedicated themselves to service to humanity. And the work of archangels in this field is coordinated by the Archangel Metatron. In other words, all the higher powers of the universe, including archangels, are assisting humanity in tipping the energy scale in favor of pure human souls potentially ready to move to the fifth dimension with Earth. And they can do it only by one means: purifying human conscience from all the alien programs that incite in people all kinds of negative energies. Only conscience transformation towards light can free humanity from the centuries-old burden dragging people down to a precipice. The tipping of the scale like this to come true as soon as possible is exactly the reason why individual work is being carried out on every pure human soul. And believe me, my dear, in spite of the superior numbers of inhumans on your planet as a result of mass cloning and a huge number of reptiloids and representatives of low-vibration civilizations embodied as humans, the energies emitted by them are incomparable in quality and strength with human energies. Thus, high-vibration energies generated by a dozen people of pure conscience can neutralize negative energies emitted by thousands of low-vibration creatures. And this proportion is increasing with every single day as the vibrations of Earth and human collective conscience are getting higher. Light is dissolving dark, and this process is impossible to stop despite all the titanic attempts that are now being made by the ruling top on enslavement of people. Today we will talk about the role played by the Archangel Gabriel in the Fellowship of Archangels. He keeps an eye on the vibrational scale of human collective conscience. To make it easier for you to understand what I mean, you can imagine human collective conscience as a huge silhouette with 7 chakras and a scale with points on the axis that these chakras are threaded on. The points of this imaginary scale, just like a column of a thermometer shows one temperature, identify the frequency of human collective conscience vibrations. The vibration frequency of the silhouette is unstable since it depends on many factors, both on the global events and on the events of each person's private life. Sometimes these events overlap and influence each other, and sometimes they do not. Thus, for example, the one living in the country and having private household farm will be far less affected by the economic crisis than a citizen who is totally dependent on the city infrastructure. And, moreover, sometimes, as a result of a crisis, one can establish beneficial contacts with city food groceries selling the surplus of one harvest to them. In other words, a lot is determined by the degree this or that person is related to state structures and is dependent on them. Yet, there are some situations when the events taking place on Earth concern everyone with no exception. This is exactly what is happening on your planet right now. There is in progress open confrontation of the ruling top with all the population of Earth without any exceptions. As their enslavement tool, they have chosen the artificially boosted hysteria on the so-called pandemic, due to which they are trying to introduce general vaccination and chipping of the population. Reptiloids have been getting ready for it for a long time, carefully conceiving the plan so as to involve all the population of the planet. Indeed, well, now when the implementation of their plan is in full swing, the energy situation on Earth turned unique when the readings of the vibration scale are literally flying along the axis, now rocketing, now dropping to the very bottom. Why does it happen? Because people, and in this case only pure human souls are at issue, face the challenge to remain slaves obeying absurd instructions of authorities running from above, or to win freedom and advance to a new level of their existence. Many of them have to break with their usual lifestyle, and their psyche suffers as a result, for it is liable to mood swings to a great extent and, consequently, vibration drops upwards or downwards. All this combined affects the overall vibration scale of human collective conscience. So as to smooth out the general index of the scale, the Archangel Gabriel studies the tendencies of these drops, and according to this arranges rescue teams consisting of the angels specializing in this or that kind of energy. For example, if he sees that human collective conscience is seized with the energy of powerlessness to change the present situation, he sends additional portion of the energy of spirit strength and belief in oneself, which helps people instead of getting depressed take certain actions to protect their rights. While if he sees that people are overwhelmed by unrestrained fear for their life and their close people life, he sends them the energy of courage and inspiration, which let people gain confidence that everything will be sorted out to the greater good of all. Thus, dissolving negative energies facilitates the increase of general human vibration index on the scale, while people ascend to another stage of their spiritual development. Today I will tell you about the contribution to the ascension of Earth and humanity made by the Archangel Uriel. During this period hard for you, he became your main guide to the fifth dimension, and this is what his work exactly is. He helps the civilization of Tetragonia that performs the function of energy border guards between the fourth and the fifth dimensions to screen the state of the people who are ready to move to this high vibration space. And while the civilization Tetragonia is responsible for the technical part, opening the door to the fifth dimension ajar for the people ready to pass through it, the Archangel Uriel helps one maintain one vibrations at the appropriate level, working with one conscience and subconscience. But to start with, it should be noted that people who are absolutely ready to move to the fifth dimension are not many on Earth so far, and it is accounted for by the situation instability connected with coronavirus and psychological frustration that many people are liable to nowadays. Yet, those who are ready occasionally get into this energy space new to human, especially during the periods of intensive and feeds of high vibration energies to Earth. Perhaps, many of you have already experienced it yourselves. So, how can you identify that by your conscience and sometimes by your physical body you are in the fifth dimension? First of all, it can be done due to your balanced inner state when, in spite of the events taking place both in the world and in your own life, you keep absolutely calm and tranquil. Deep in your heart you are absolutely sure everything is running in compliance with the plan and will be solved in the most favorable way both for you and the whole humanity. For you know now that it gets darker before the dawn. You watch everything as a wise friendly onlooker, not having any negative feelings even to those who have created for people this absurd in all respects situation, understanding that this is what exactly the trigger mechanism for human collective conscience revival is. But external factors as well often point you out that the fifth dimension is really close by now. Many of you see the new energies that transform everything around becoming conspicuous. Colors become brighter, and forms turn more distinguished and convex. Sometimes space itself changes around you too. It seems to you it gets refracted, and space between you and objects becomes less. It can be especially visible in the open air or on the days outstanding in terms of energy. All this is not play of fancy of yours, my dear, but a new reality coming into your life. And it is the Archangel Uriel who helps you sustain the feeling of these unusual sensations being real, sending you more and more portions of the energy of ascension, so that they get fixed in your conscience, subconscious, physical bodies and in your life events. He assists you in staying longer and longer in the space of the fifth dimension where you get at certain moments of your life, so that you gradually get used to it and adjust to it, transferring these sensations to your present reality, thereby establishing your own corridor between the dimensions. In the course of time it will enable you to exist in the two dimensions at the same time and move freely from the fifth dimension to the third one so as to lead other people away. Therefore, my dear, as often as possible invoke the Archangel Uriel who will help you anchor this new state of flowing from one dimension to another one that will later become your natural and usual one. Today I will tell you in detail about the Archangel Seraphim, for whom rather a crucial moment has come. As I have already says, the transition of Earth to the fifth dimension has considerably changed the activity of many of the light forces representatives who are doing their best to revive as many people potentially ready to preform transition as possible. And the Archangel Seraphim is one of the key figures here, since from time immemorial his service to humanity has been in spiritual reviving of people. Well, how has he managed to help them revive? Perhaps he can be compared to a keen fisherman who, while fishing, was casting into the physical world and waiting for someone to get his high vibration bait. So, what was this bait like? This was the divine energies of love, light and gratitude. And if he saw that one heart responded to these energies, got attracted to them in terms of vibrations, he was trying to consolidate these feelings in one, having got one divinely hooked. Of course, he had a lot of assistance, for it was hard for him to reach the third dimension himself. And the main of them have always been safeguard angels of people, because they are able to influence people directly on earth, creating the situations and life conditions that forced them to the spiritual course of development. But it was the Archangel Seraphim who supervised one following this course. Thus, if he saw that one vibrations were decreasing drastically due to hardships too severe, he brought his angel assistants into place so that they could help improve the situation and one would not fall into the abyss of sorrow and despair. While if he saw that spiritually revived person found themselves in too ideal conditions and got excessively tempted by the third dimension world, which resulted in their moral lapse, the situation was adjusted the other way. In their life there were created such conditions that enabled them to see the dark underbelly of the material world and all its invalidity in comparison with eternal spiritual values. In other words, sometimes one is rather strictly brought back to the spiritual road that one's soul was so striving for. Now, when many of you have already covered the road like this, you have managed to become convinced thanks to first-hand experience how twisting, unexpected and thorny it can be. And at the hardest moments of your life, each of you is likely to feel support from above, as if someone invisible held your hand and led you to a safe, smooth road. Such assistants of yours were numerous, and their work and the process of your rescue was coordinated by the Archangel Seraphim, who not only unmistakably scanned your vibrations but saw all the timelines of your destiny, invariably directing you to the one that featured your spiritual revival. Well, now when humanity has turned endangered, the Archangel Seraphim and his assistants are recklessly rushing to each human soul, giving people chance to survive and live a unique experience of transition with Earth to a new energy space of the fifth dimension. Do not forget, my dear, to invoke the Archangel Seraphim for all your seances and meditations. Feel his strength, spiritual support and power. Be thankful to him for his always being there for you, and get filled with his salvational high vibrations. I bless you and love immensely. Father Absolute spoke to you.